Hey everyone, and welcome back to LGBT Stories. Get ready for a story that took me completely by surprise. Imagine being a psychiatrist, dedicated to helping people through their most vulnerable moments. Then, one day, a client walks in, shrouded in grief and mystery. What starts as a professional relationship takes a turn you absolutely won't see coming, blurring lines and revealing hidden desires. This is a story about unexpected connection, dangerous obsession, and a confession that changed everything. Let's dive into this intense and emotional tale. I've spent years helping people through their darkest moments, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened with a client named Alex. At first, he was just another grieving client until one night in the middle of a session. He crossed a line I never saw coming, and from that moment, there was no way out. I had been practicing psychiatry for nearly 7 years, but nothing had ever quite prepared me for the encounter I had one rainy Thursday afternoon. It was my last appointment of the day, and I was looking forward to heading home. But when I saw his name on the intake form, Alex Novak, I felt an odd pang of curiosity. The name wasn't familiar, but something about it caught my attention. Perhaps it was just the way he had requested the appointment. Urgent, it said. I rose from my desk, adjusting my tie before walking into the waiting room. The low hum of the fluorescent lights buzzed around me, mingling with the soft patter of rain outside. Alex was sitting there gazing out the window, his attention fixed on the gray, rain-swept city skyline. His profile was sharp, and there was something almost fragile about the way he held himself, his broad shoulders hunched slightly as if the weight of the world rested on them. He didn't seem to notice my approach at first, and I felt a twinge of hesitation, but then he turned, his dark eyes meeting mine. The look in them was intense, like someone who had seen far too much, but had somehow yet to break. Dr. Fletcher, his voice was hoarse, and he stood slowly, almost cautiously, as if unsure whether to make the move. "That's me," I replied, offering a warm but professional smile. "Come in, Alex, let's talk." I held the door open for him, and he walked in, his gaze briefly drifting over the cluttered desk as he took a seat across from me. There was an obvious unease in the way he moved, but also something else, something more deliberate, like he was watching me as much as I was watching him. When he sat down, his eyes lingered on my face for a fraction of a second too long, an appraising look I couldn't quite place. "I see you've requested an urgent appointment," I said, taking my seat behind the desk, folding my hands in front of me. "How are you feeling today?" His eyes flicked downward, then back to mine, a slight furrow in his brow. "I'm not okay. I haven't been for a while." It's hard to explain. His voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it, a certain desperation that tugged at me, drawing me in despite myself. I had seen many troubled patients in my years of practice, but something about Alex was different. There was a vulnerability there that felt almost dangerous. "Take your time," I said, leaning forward slightly, trying to put him at ease. "What's been going on?" Alex shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable with the question. His fingers nervously traced the rim of the coffee cup sitting on the table. I could tell he was trying to find the right words, but something was holding him back. "I don't know how to explain it." "Doc," he said finally, his voice low and shaky. "It's like something's coming, like something's already here, and I can't stop it." I studied him carefully, his eyes darted around the room, and I could sense the tension in his body, the way his shoulders were tense, his jaw clenched. It wasn't just anxiety, it was something deeper, something far more unsettling. "What do you mean something's coming?" I asked, my voice calm but probing. "I don't know exactly," Alex said, his gaze flicking toward the window, the rain pounding against the glass. "It's not just a feeling, Doc. It's more like a presence, something I can't shake. It's been following me for months. I don't know if I'm losing my mind or if I'm just waiting for something that's already happened." I took a slow breath, absorbing his words. There was something strange about the way he spoke, an eerie calmness in his tone despite the heaviness of what he was saying. Most people would have been visibly shaken, but Alex was eerily composed, as if he were trying to control something that couldn't be controlled. "What are you feeling exactly?" I asked. wanting to dig deeper into the source of his anxiety. He hesitated for a long time, his eyes flickering to mine again. I keep seeing things, hearing things. Sometimes I feel like I'm not alone, even when I am. And it's not just me. Other people see him too. People who shouldn't even know who he is. I noticed that he didn't sit, he said him. That word sent a chill down my spine, but I kept my face neutral, my tone steady. Who is he? I asked. Alex's eyes locked onto mine then, and for the briefest moment, the room seemed to shrink around us. His gaze wasn't just focused on me, it was like he was studying me, measuring me with a sharpness that sent a strange, tingling sensation across my skin. My brother, he said, his voice quiet but firm. His name was Luke. The mention of a brother made everything feel more personal, more real. There was a pain in his voice, a quiet sorrow that I could almost taste in the air between us. But there was something more, something unsaid that made me lean in closer. My curiosity piqued. Tell me about him, I said softly, willing him to open up. Alex swallowed hard before answering. Luke died over a year ago. It was an accident, or so they say, but I don't believe it. I don't believe he died the way they told me he did. The words hung in the air, thick with tension. I could feel my heart rate quicken, a sense of foreboding crawling over me. Alex wasn't just grieving a loss. He was grappling with something far darker, something that he hadn't yet fully articulated. His voice shook slightly as he continued. I wasn't there when it happened. I should have been, I should have. His voice broke, and for a moment, he looked down at his hands, gripping the edge of the armrest like it was the only thing holding him together. But I think there is more to it. I think my brother was murdered. I stayed silent for a moment, letting his words sink in. Murder. It seemed like an absurd claim. After all, accidents happen all the time. People died unexpectedly, but the way Alex spoke, the raw intensity in his voice made me pause. There was conviction there, something unshakable. You think he was murdered? I asked, my voice steady despite the growing unease in my chest. What makes you believe that? Alex's gaze flickered to mine again, his expression tight. Because it wasn't just an accident, document. It doesn't feel right. The way people talk about him, the way they remember him, it's like they're hiding something. They act like he just disappeared, but I don't believe that. I think they know something. I think they know who did it. I felt a chill rush through me, my thoughts racing. This wasn't just a grieving brother struggling to make sense of a tragic loss. Alex wasn't just searching for closure. He was searching for answers, and I had the eerie feeling that the truth, whatever it was far darker than either of us could comprehend. I leaned forward slightly, my curiosity pulling me in. Do you have any idea who might have been responsible? For the first time since our session began, Alex didn't look at me directly. His eyes flickered toward the door, as if he were checking to see if anyone was listening. Then in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, I think I know who did it, but the story doesn't end there. I wasn't prepared for what would come next. Alex's words hung in the air between us like an unspoken promise, and I knew that whatever he had to say next would change everything. He wasn't just asking for help with his grief or his anxiety. He was asking for help with a truth that could shatter his entire world, and without realizing it, I was about to become entangled in a mystery I wasn't prepared for. The words Alex spoke hung in the air between us like a weight I couldn't shake. I think I know who did it. His voice was low, barely audible, but there was a certainty in it that made my pulse quicken. I leaned forward, intrigued but cautious. Who? I asked, my own voice betraying a hint of curiosity. My role as a psychiatrist was to listen, to guide, but Alex wasn't just another patient with anxiety or grief. He was different. There was a darkness in him, something hidden that called to me. Alex didn't answer immediately. Instead, he seemed to be wrestling with something internal. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair, his fingers trembling slightly, as if the weight of the secret he was holding was too much to bear. For a moment, he looked at me, his dark eyes filled with an intensity that made me feel as though he were seeing right through me. Dr. Fletcher, he said quietly, his voice unsteady but insistent. I need you to promise me something. He paused, swallowing hard. Promise me you'll believe me. Promise me you won't think I'm crazy." I nodded, my professional demeanor slipping for a moment as I registered the depth of his request. "I promise," I said, and it was true. Whatever Alex was about to tell me, I knew I had to listen. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts before finally speaking. "It was my best friend, Mason. He was the one who did it." I felt a slight chill creep up my spine, and my heart skipped a beat. Mason. I tried to recall any details from Alex's earlier words about his brother's life, but this name didn't ring any bells. "Mason," I repeated slowly. "Why do you think Mason killed your brother?" Alex leaned forward, his hands resting on the edge of my desk, his fingers twitching nervously. He looked at me with such intensity that it felt like he was reading my thoughts. "I don't have proof," he said, his voice strained, "but I know it was him. He was the last one to see Luke before it happened. He was the one who—" He trailed off, his words faltering. "Who what, Alex?" I asked gently, trying to coax him into continuing. Alex's gaze flickered around the room, as if he were afraid someone might be watching. Then he leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "He's been acting weird ever since. Like he's covering something up, but when I look into his eyes, I see it. I know what he did." I sat back, absorbing his words. I had treated many patients who had deep-seated emotional trauma, but this was different. Alex wasn't simply dealing with grief or guilt. He was speaking with a kind of obsessive certainty that was unsettling. There was something else beneath the surface, a dark undercurrent to his words that I couldn't fully grasp. "Have you confronted him?" I asked, trying to steer the conversation back to a place where I could help him make sense of it all. Alex shook his head quickly, his dark hair falling into his eyes. "I can't. I don't think I'd be able to keep it together. I keep seeing him everywhere, Doc, even now. I keep seeing his face, hearing his voice, like he's taunting me. I'm losing control." The urgency in Alex's voice struck a chord in me, and I felt a sudden impulse to reassure him, to calm the storm that seemed to be brewing within him. But there was more to it than just reassurance. There was a deep, magnetic pull I couldn't ignore. My eyes lingered on Alex for a moment longer than necessary, and for the first time, I realized how close he had moved to me, how his body seemed to be drawn toward mine. I took a breath, my mind racing with professional protocol. This was dangerous territory. I couldn't let myself get too involved. I had to remain objective, but the truth was something about Alex was pulling me in, and I couldn't quite explain why. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, as if he could see into the very heart of me. Maybe it was the intensity of his emotions, so raw, so vulnerable, that I couldn't help but want to reach out and offer some kind of solace. "You're not losing control, Alex," I said gently, my voice low and soothing, "but you need to confront your feelings, not just your suspicions. If you truly believe Mason had something to do with it, we need to explore that." Alex's eyes softened for a moment, and I could see a flicker of gratitude in them. But then, without warning, something in his expression shifted. His lips parted, his breath shallow as he stared at me, no longer as a patient, but as something more. There was a hunger in his gaze now, a longing that sent a shock wave through my chest. Before I could react, Alex stood up abruptly, moving toward me in one fluid motion. My mind raced as I instinctively stood as well, my heart pounding in my ears. "Alex, wait," I began, but the words caught in my throat as he closed the distance between us. In a sudden, reckless moment, Alex reached for me, his hand gently cupping my jaw, tilting my face up toward his. I froze, my body rigid, every part of me screaming to pull away, but there was something in the intensity of his touch, something almost desperate that made it impossible to move. Without a word, Alex leaned down and kissed me. It was unexpected, a clash of warmth and urgency that left me stunned. His lips were soft but insistent, pressing against mine in a way that felt both familiar and foreign all at once. His fingers slid from my jaw to the back of my neck, pulling me closer, his body nearly flush against mine. For a split second, I stood there paralyzed, my mind trying to process what was happening. This wasn't part of the professional boundaries I had worked so hard to maintain, but in that moment, everything else seemed to fade away. There was only the feeling of his lips on mine, his breath mingling with mine, his heart beating against my chest. Then, just as quickly as it had started, Alex pulled away, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths, his eyes wide, searching mine for a reaction. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice hoarse, like he hadn't expected the kiss himself. "I don't know what came over me. I needed to feel something real." I swallowed, my pulse racing as I fought to regain control of the situation. "Alex, you need to understand this is inappropriate," I said, my voice barely steady. "You're in a vulnerable state right now, and your emotions." "I know," he interrupted, his voice trembling. "I know it was wrong, but I couldn't help it. Document. I can't stop thinking about you. About how you're the only person who listens, who actually seems to understand me. I need you." His words hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just about his grief anymore. It wasn't just about the mystery of his brother's death. This was something else entirely. Alex wasn't just seeking closure. He was seeking something from me that I couldn't provide. Something that was dangerous for both of us. I took a step back, my mind whirling. "Alex, I'm here to help you," I said, my voice trembling slightly despite my best efforts to remain composed. "But this isn't healthy. You need to focus on dealing with your grief, your suspicions, not me." He looked at me, his expression a mixture of confusion and longing. "But you're the only one who can help me. You have to be." I shook my head, my heart pounding. "I can't be that for you. I can't be what you need." Alex's eyes darkened with something that almost looked like frustration, but I couldn't be sure. There was a certain danger in the air now, something unspoken, and I knew that I had only just begun to scratch the surface of what was really happening here. Alex wasn't just a patient anymore, and the truth, I suspected, was far darker than I had imagined. The room felt like it had suddenly shrunk, as if the walls were closing in on us. The kiss still burned on my lips, an unexpected and unwelcome reminder of the boundaries I had just violated, or that Alex had violated. I couldn't even tell anymore. His desperate, intense gaze burned into me, and I could see the weight of his emotions threatening to break through the fragile facade he had built. I stood there, my hands slightly trembling, trying to recalibrate. My mind raced, flooded with confusion and a sharp sense of guilt. I should have known better than to let things escalate like that. I should have been more assertive, more professional. I was the one who was supposed to help him navigate his emotions, not let them spiral out of control. "Alex," I said, my voice hoarse, barely above a whisper, "this can't happen again. You're in a vulnerable state, and this isn't the way to deal with your feelings." He didn't immediately respond. Instead, he seemed to retreat inward, withdrawing into himself like a wounded animal. His shoulders hunched, his eyes flickering away from mine. And for the first time, I saw the vulnerability in him that I had been sensing all along. He wasn't just a man with grief. He was a man with something deeper, something dark and consuming, and now it was clear that I was entangled in it. "I'm sorry, Doc," he said, his voice barely audible. "I don't know what came over me. It's hard. I can't stop thinking about you. You're the only person who's ever really listened." There was an honesty in his words that struck me like a punch to the gut. It was raw, unfiltered. I had seen patients who were broken, who were lost, but Alex was different. There was something about him, something magnetic that pulled at me even now, even in the wake of his impulsive, almost reckless behavior. "Alex," I said again, softer this time, "I am here to help you, but this can't happen. You need to focus on your grief, your brother, the things that are really causing you pain." He looked at me then, his eyes searching mine like he was looking for something. "You think I'm crazy, don't you?" he whispered, his voice cracking. "You think I'm losing my mind?" I shook my head quickly. "No, Alex, I don't think you're crazy. I think you're in a very complicated place, and I'm here to help you through it. But we can't let emotions like this, these feelings, take over. It's dangerous." For a moment, he was silent, his gaze fixed on the floor as though the weight of my words was sinking in. But then he raised his head slowly, and I could see the fire returning to his eyes. There was a shift in him, something subtle but undeniable. It was like I had awoken a part of him that had been lying dormant, something more primal, something desperate. "You don't understand, Doc," he said, his voice a little steadier now, though it was still tinged with an edge of panic. "It's not just about me and Mason. It's not just about Luke anymore. It's about what happened, what's happening. I can't stop it." I took a step back, my mind struggling to keep pace with his words. What did he mean by that? What was he trying to say? And why did I feel so drawn to him despite the unsettling turn our conversation had taken? "Alex," I said carefully, "you're feeling a lot of things right now, and that's okay, but we need to work through them, not with urgency, but with clarity." He nodded, though his expression remained conflicted. It was as if he was torn between the need for help and the overpowering need to make me understand, truly understand, what was at the heart of his torment. Then, just when I thought he might calm down, Alex spoke again, and the words hit me like a freight train. "I just can't stop seeing him document. I keep seeing Luke everywhere. It's like he's alive, like he's watching me, and not just me. I see him in other people's eyes too. I swear I do." The air in the room seemed to change, growing heavier, suffused with a sense of foreboding that I couldn't shake. It wasn't just grief that Alex was battling. It was something deeper, something that seemed to blur the line between reality and madness. "What do you mean seeing him?" I asked, my voice steady, but my heart pounding. "You mean you think you're hallucinating?" Alex didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood up abruptly, his movements jerky and erratic, as if he couldn't stay still. He paced the room, his footsteps uneven as though he were trying to outrun his thoughts. "I don't know," he said finally, his voice strained, taut with emotion. "It's not like I'm imagining it. It's like he's really there. I see him in reflections, in the corners of rooms, in the eyes of people I pass on the street. It's always the same, his eyes. They look like he knows something I don't, like he's trying to tell me something I'm too stupid to understand." I watched him, my instincts telling me that this wasn't just a simple case of grief. This wasn't normal. Alex wasn't just mourning his brother. He was being consumed by something darker, something that was unraveling his grip on reality. "You're not stupid, Alex," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "You're in a difficult place right now. You're processing something traumatic, and it's clouding your perception. It's important to talk about it, to understand what's going on in your mind." But he wasn't listening anymore. Alex's eyes had taken on a strange, distant look as though he were somewhere else, lost in his own thoughts. He wasn't speaking to me anymore. He was speaking to something else. "He wants me to find out the truth," Alex said, almost himself. "Luke's not gone. He's still here somehow. He's trying to tell me, and I have to listen. I have to figure out what happened." His voice trembled with an urgency I hadn't seen before. It was as though something inside him was urging him forward, pushing him into a rabbit hole from which there would be no escape. I stood up then, feeling the need to ground him somehow, to bring him back to the present, to reality. I reached out to him, but the moment I touched his arm, he flinched. It was as if my presence startled him, as if I were a threat to whatever was taking over his mind. "You need to stop, Alex," I said, my voice shaking now. "You're losing yourself. You need to focus on the facts, on reality, not whatever this thing is that you're seeing. We can help you, but only if you let us." For a long moment, Alex didn't respond. He stood there frozen, his eyes vacant as though the words hadn't penetrated his mind. And then slowly, he turned back toward me, and for the briefest of moments, I saw something different in his eyes, something dark, something calculating. "You don't get it, do you?" he said, his voice cold, the warmth that had once been there gone. "You're just a part of the game now. Document. You're going to help me whether you want to or not." Before I could react, Alex lunged forward, grabbing me by the shoulders with surprising force. My heart raced, and I instinctively tried to pull back, but his grip was too strong. "Alex," I began, but before I could finish my sentence, his lips crashed against mine again, this time harder, more insistent, more forceful. It wasn't like the first kiss. This wasn't a moment of desperation, a fleeting lapse in control. No, this felt calculated, deliberate. Alex wasn't just seeking comfort anymore. He was pulling me into his madness, into his need to find the truth, to make me a part of the obsession that was consuming him. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My body rose paralyzed by the sheer intensity of what was happening. I wanted to push him away. I wanted to stop, but the connection between us was too strong, too raw. But then, just as quickly as it had begun, Alex pulled away, his breathing ragged, his eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and fear. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice trembling again. "I didn't mean to." But his apology felt empty, like it was just another part of the game. Alex wasn't just spiraling into madness, he was pulling me down with him, and in that moment, I knew something darker was coming, something I wasn't ready for, something that neither of us could escape. The air in my office felt thick, suffocating. My heart raced, and my thoughts spiraled in a whirlpool of panic and confusion. Alex had kissed me again, but this time something about it was different, more urgent, more dangerous. He had crossed a line that I could no longer ignore, and yet a part of me, a small, dangerous part, still wanted to understand him. He stood before me now, his hands trembling as he wiped his mouth as if trying to rid himself of the physical evidence of what had just happened. But there was no wiping away what had changed between us. The lines were blurred, and I knew I couldn't pretend that this was just a case of grief anymore. "Alex," I began, my voice shaky but firm, "this isn't how we can move forward. You need help, but we have to start with the truth, the real truth about what happened to Luke, about your brother. That's where we need to focus." Alex's eyes flashed with something that I couldn't quite place. It wasn't the vulnerability I had seen before. It was something darker, something more primal. "You don't get it, Doc," he said, his voice low, almost mocking. "It's not just Luke. It's about what's happening to me, what's happening to us." He took a step forward, his gaze never leaving mine, and I instinctively stepped back. I could feel the distance between us shrinking, his presence overwhelming me in a way that I hadn't experienced before. Something was happening, something that felt inevitable, like we were both heading toward an event neither of us could control. "Alex," I said, trying to regain some semblance of authority, "you're spiraling. I can help you, but you need to trust me. You need to take a step back and look at this rationally. We need to talk about your brother, your grief, your feelings, this obsession. It's not healthy." He laughed, but it was an empty, bitter sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "Rational? You think I'm being rational? You think I've been rational this whole time?" His voice grew louder, his words sharp and accusing. "I've seen things you wouldn't believe. I've felt things you can't even imagine, and you," he pointed at me, his finger trembling, "you're just going to stand there and pretend like you know what's best for me? You're not even listening." His anger was palpable, and I could feel the shift in the room. This wasn't just about his grief anymore. If it wasn't even about Mason or Luke, Alex was unraveling in front of me, and I had no idea how to stop it. His obsession with his brother's death was consuming him, and now he was trying to drag me into it. I couldn't breathe. I took another step back, my mind racing for any solution, anything that might pull me out of this moment. This was no longer just a matter of therapy. This was something much darker, something more dangerous. "Alex," I said again, my voice quieter this time, more desperate. "This isn't you. You're not losing control. You're not thinking clearly, but we can fix this together." But Alex wasn't listening anymore. He was beyond my reach. He was standing too close now, his body tense with suppressed energy, his breathing shallow, as though he were on the edge of some kind of precipice. His eyes narrowed, and for a moment I thought he was going to strike me, his rage boiling over. But then in an instant, the expression on his face shifted. His anger seemed to dissipate, replaced by something colder, something more calculating. He stepped toward me, slow and deliberate, until I was backed up against the desk. My chest tightened, my instinct screamed for me to get away, but my body wouldn't move. I was trapped. Alex leaned in, his face inches from mine, and I could feel the heat of his breath on my skin. His voice was a whisper, but it was filled with a deadly calm. "You think you can save me? You think you can fix me, Doc? I've seen the truth. I know what happened to Luke, and you're just a part of it now." I swallowed hard, my pulse racing in my ears. "Alex, please," I whispered. my voice trembling. This isn't real. You're not seeing the truth. You're seeing something else, something your mind has created. He smiled then, a slow, almost predatory smile that made my blood run cold. You think I'm crazy, don't you? You think I'm just some broken man who can't handle the truth. But I know what I saw. I know who killed Luke. And I know what's coming for me. I didn't know what to say. The words stuck in my throat, and I could feel my body shaking as the weight of his words settled over me. There was no denying it anymore. Alex wasn't just a patient. He was a man with a secret, and that secret was slowly swallowing him whole. Alex, I said again, my voice barely a whisper now, tell me the truth. Tell me what happened. He laughed, the sound dark and humorless. You really want to know, Doc? You really want to know what happened to Luke? I nodded, my heart pounding. I had to know. I had to understand what was going on in his mind. But as the words left my mouth, I could feel the danger in the air. Something was coming, and I wasn't prepared for it. Luke isn't dead, Alex said, his voice barely audible, like a confession, like a whisper from the depths of a nightmare. Mason killed him, but he didn't finish the job. He thought he had, but he was wrong. Luke's still out there. He's waiting for me to find him. My breath caught in my throat. What do you mean? What are you saying, Alex? He stepped back, a sudden intensity flooding his features. His hands clenched into fists, and for a moment I thought he might strike me. But then his expression softened, just for a second. I'm saying that Mason isn't the only one who killed Luke. I did too. I froze. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, the words hanging in the air like a bomb waiting to go off. You, I gasped, unable to comprehend the enormity of what he had just said. You killed him? Alex's eyes gleamed with a strange, feverish light. I didn't mean to, he said, his voice almost pleading, but I had to. He was going to ruin everything. He was going to expose the truth. I took a step back, my mind reeling. This wasn't just about Mason anymore. This wasn't just about the grief of losing a brother. Alex had killed Luke, and now he was consumed with guilt, with a need to erase the truth, but the truth was out now, and it was darker than I could have ever imagined. Suddenly a noise erupted from the hallway. Footsteps hurried and urgent. A door slammed open, and before I could react, 2 officers appeared at the door. They were there for Alex. I could see it in their eyes. Alex Williams. One of them said, his voice firm but calm, "You're under arrest for the murder of Luke Williams." Alex didn't move. He didn't flinch. Instead, he turned to me, a cold smile playing on his lips. "I told you the truth, Doc, but now it's too late. You're part of the story. You can't escape it." And just like that, they took him away. I stood there frozen as the weight of everything that had just transpired crashed down on me. Alex had drawn me into his obsession, his madness, and now there was no going back. The truth had been revealed. Luke's death, Alex's guilt, the twisted web of lies and deception that had entangled all of us. I had tried to help him, I had tried to fix him, but in the end, I was just another part of the story, another casualty of a mind unraveling in the face of its own darkness. As the door closed behind Alex, and I was left standing in the silence of my office, I realized that the true price of trying to understand someone like Alex wasn't just the risk of losing myself. It was the danger of becoming part of the very thing I sought to fix. The truth, it seemed, had a way of consuming everything in its path. Wow, what a story. Did you see that coming? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this emotional and unexpected LGBT story, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to LGBT Stories for more compelling and heartfelt tales. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our new uploads. And tell me, what did you think of Alex's confession? Comment your reactions. I love hearing from you all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.